Somebody said if you don't like playing with LeBron, you wouldn't like playing with Kobe. Bro, you guys got to stop these narratives, man. It's not that I didn't like playing with Bron, you guys. And, I don't want to go into detail about it. Some of y'all comments just be so asinine. Like when I was in Cleveland and I was a young player, I had no idea Bron was going to come back.
Kyrie Irving just sparked a fire that could reshape one of the biggest reputations in modern basketball. And the wildest part is how casually it happened. One sentence on a random live stream. No interview, no media buildup, no dramatic rollout. Just a calm moment, the camera running, and suddenly the internet detonated. Within seconds, LeBron James supporters were scrambling into defense mode. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Fans were arguing nonstop. And everyone was reminded of something important. Kyrie isn't just a former teammate. He's someone who lived through the real story. Someone who sat courtside and locker room deep for everything that happened behind closed doors in Cleveland. And now it sounds like he's finally ready to talk. That's what makes this moment feel so dangerous. Kyrie didn't look upset or heated when he dropped the line. There was no rant, no frustration, no emotional outburst. He stared directly into the camera with this steady, ice-cold confidence and said something that sent shockwaves through the entire basketball world. He told viewers that once his playing days are done, the full story about what went down with LeBron is coming out. And he said it with the tone of someone who has been carrying heavy truth for a long time. That wasn't random conversation. That was intent. And judging by how quickly his comments filled with panic, LeBron's fanbase clearly understands the weight behind those words. So now the question becomes, what exactly has Kyrie been holding on to? Because when you start digging into his Cleveland years, the situation gets a lot more complicated than people like to remember. And the roots go back before LeBron even returned. Many forget this part, but Kyrie Irving never wanted to be in Cleveland to begin with. It's not disrespect, it's reality. When he was drafted first overall in 2011, he never got a choice. The league placed him on a franchise still trying to recover from LeBron leaving for Miami. Kyrie arrived with generational talent and unreal ball handling, but he was stuck carrying a roster with no real identity or direction.
The reason why I say I would have loved to play with Kobe, because I would have loved to have started my career with, I love Cleveland, don't get me wrong. I'm appreciative of all the things that they've done for me, but at the same time, I would have loved to choose the franchise I wanted to go to. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to develop next to some of my favorite players and some of my favorite people. Because being a young player, when you're on a team that's not winning a lot of games, there's a lot of bad habits that form. And that's what ended up happening to me when I was very young. I had a lot of bad habits. I was not a winner. I was not a good loser.
Night after night, Kyrie Irving was out there trying to drag a struggling team toward wins that barely meant anything. And this is where things get interesting. Kyrie recently admitted that those early losing seasons forced him to develop habits he never wanted. He started playing a selfish, isolation-heavy style simply because there was no one else on the floor who could create offense. He became a one-man show out of necessity, not ego. But just as he was finally shaking those habits and stepping into a real leadership role, everything shifted. LeBron James announced he was returning to Cleveland, and instantly Kyrie's entire trajectory flipped. Picture the moment. You're a 22-year-old rising star entering your fourth season, the point when many players take the leap and become the true face of their franchise. You've survived the hard years, learned from your mistakes, and you're finally ready to run your own team. But then the biggest figure in basketball walks through the door and takes control of the entire operation. Your spotlight disappears. Your leadership gets reassigned. Your chance to grow into the guy is suddenly put on pause with no timeline. That's exactly what Kyrie experienced in 2014. And when you listen to how he talks about that period now, you notice something subtle. He never says it was all negative. He never directly criticizes LeBron. But he keeps repeating one phrase that stands out. Playing with LeBron is a different animal. Not different in a simple or positive way. Different in a way that changes everything about how you're evaluated. Because when you play on a LeBron-led team, expectations don't just increase, they shift. You're no longer judged on your personal development. You're judged on whether you fit into LeBron's system, whether you contribute to LeBron's success, and whether you can accept the role of second option while LeBron guides the narrative. And that's where the story grows darker, because LeBron didn't just bring basketball ability back to Cleveland. He brought something far more influential: control.
But when you guys make it about one player, it is kind of just weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just one player that you have to promote. Like, we had like solid players on our team. When you're playing with somebody like Bron or somebody that you guys like to compare him to, it's a different animal. It's a different journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're automatically expected to be at the top of the charts, the top of the league. Every time you play with Bron, it's going to be a lot of media attention. It's going to be a lot of back and forth of narratives. It's going to be about a lot of spun narratives. There's going to be a lot of politics. There's going to be a lot of shit that a lot of people don't see in front of the camera. And for me, I was just a young person trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not that I disliked playing with Bron at any time. It was just literally, it was my time to move on. And that's what people got to accept. They want a deeper, detailed dive in terms of what happened. It's like, it was my time to move on.
Let's take a moment to talk about Pat Riley, because this is the detail that completely changes how the whole story gets interpreted. Before LeBron James went to Miami, he was extraordinary but unfinished. He had the talent of a superstar, but he was still raw in ways people forget. He could be emotional on the sidelines, shaky in big moments, and inconsistent as a leader. He was dominant, but not yet fully refined. Then came 4 years inside Pat Riley's system and everything shifted. Riley reshaped him. He instilled discipline, structure, routine, and the mental toughness needed to stay locked in when the pressure got suffocating. The version of LeBron that emerged in Miami was the most polished we had ever seen: calm, professional, calculated, and consistently in control. But here's the part Kyrie Irving has been hinting at, the part most people miss. LeBron didn't just learn how to become a better player in Miami. He learned how to manage the machine that surrounds a superstar. The media storylines, the public perception, the way narratives get shaped before they ever hit the fan base. Pat Riley's system wasn't just about basketball. It was about image, brand protection, and crafting a legacy that stays intact no matter what happens on the court. So when LeBron returned to Cleveland, he brought that entire blueprint with him. And Kyrie experienced firsthand what that really meant. He has talked about how everything around LeBron is filtered, controlled, and packaged long before the public ever hears it. He's described how stories get twisted behind the scenes, how internal politics shape the messaging, and how the framing always leans toward defending one person. That carries weight, because it means LeBron didn't come back just as a more complete athlete. He came back as someone who knew how to manage every angle of his career, including how his teammates were positioned within the story. And if you're Kyrie Irving watching that system operate around you, it starts feeling less like a partnership and more like a machine that keeps moving whether you benefit from it or get pushed aside. Then came the moment that was supposed to redefine everything. Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. Kyrie Irving, just 24 years old, steps back over Stephen Curry with 53 seconds left and hits one of the coldest shots in basketball history. A pure dagger. Cleveland wins its first championship in more than 50 years. The city erupts. Generations of heartbreak disappear in a single moment. Kyrie delivers the shot that seals the title. That's the kind of moment that should define a career. The kind of highlight that becomes iconic, replayed forever as proof of absolute ice-cold execution under pressure. But that's not how the narrative unfolded. And this is where Kyrie's frustration becomes impossible to ignore. He hits the championship-sealing shot, and when he turns on the TV, all he hears is blocked by James. Over and over again. LeBron's chase-down block on Andre Iguodala is replayed endlessly, while Kyrie's game-winning three is barely mentioned. It's like his moment was erased the same night it happened. Then things took an even stranger turn. LeBron went on television and said that championship made him the greatest player of all time, not the team. Not the collective effort. Just him. Meanwhile, Kyrie averaged 27 points per game in that finals. He was the second-best player on the court the entire series. He hit the shot that sealed the championship. Yet somehow the entire story became LeBron's redemption arc, LeBron's journey, LeBron's legacy. Kyrie Irving became a footnote in his own defining achievement. That's the kind of moment that stays with you. That's when you begin to understand the system around LeBron James' ISN to built to highlight the team. It's built to protect and elevate one individual, regardless of what actually unfolded on the floor. And from there, things only got harsher. Fast forward to the 2017 finals. Kyrie Irving is putting up 29 a night, matching Kevin Durant possession for possession while Golden State dominates every matchup. Durant is outplaying LeBron by a wide margin, yet somehow when the Cavaliers lose, the blame shifts everywhere except in LeBron's direction. Kyrie takes criticism. The role players get attacked. But LeBron remains untouched, shielded as always. Then, less than a month after that finals loss, something unbelievable happens. Trade rumors start circulating around Kyrie Irving, the same player who delivered Cleveland a championship. The same player who carried a massive load across 2 straight finals runs. Suddenly, he's being discussed like he's the problem. Think about how wild that is. LeBron's inner circle begins whispering about moving on from him, acting like the 2016 title never occurred. Fans start playing pretend general manager, creating imaginary trade packages and arguing about who the team could get in return. The disrespect was unreal, and Kyrie eventually hit his breaking point. He demanded a trade. He wanted out. And that choice made him the first superstar in LeBron's era to take control of his own path and walk away on his own terms. Every major player who teamed up with LeBron either joined him voluntarily or was quietly pushed out when their value dropped. Dwayne Wade in his later seasons, Chris Bosh before the health issues ended his run, Kevin Love when his role shrank. None of them exited by choice. But Kyrie did. He looked at the entire system, realized it wasn't built for him to evolve, and said he was done. And LeBron's fan base never forgave him for that decision because his exit revealed something uncomfortable. The LeBron ecosystem only functions when everyone else accepts being replaceable. Kyrie refused to fit that mold, and it shattered the illusion. That's when the character attacks really began. And this wasn't ordinary basketball criticism. This was personal, targeted, and nonstop. People went after every chapter of his career. His time in Boston got twisted into evidence that he couldn't lead young players. His injuries were framed like he chose to sit out just to be difficult. Even his personality got dragged, with people calling him strange, moody, or hard to work with. Every struggle Kyrie Irving faced got twisted into another claim that he couldn't succeed without LeBron James holding his hand. It didn't matter that he continued performing at an elite level. By that point, the narrative was already locked in, and nothing he did on the court could break through it. Then the pandemic arrived, and everything went completely off the rails. Kyrie made a personal decision not to take the COVID vaccine, and the backlash went nuclear. People weren't just disagreeing with his choice. They were calling for him to be removed from the league, calling him selfish, reckless, even dangerous. After a while, the outrage didn't feel like it was about health anymore. It felt like people wanted to punish him for daring to think for himself, for refusing to fall in line with the version of the story they expected from him. And the wildest part? A massive chunk of that anger came directly from LeBron's fan base. They acted like Kyrie's personal choice was some kind of attack on LeBron's legacy. The level of obsession was beyond normal fandom, and through all of it, where was LeBron? Silent. Completely silent. No support, no public acknowledgement, nothing. Just quiet distance while his fan base did the attacking. That's exactly what Kyrie meant when he talked about the politics behind the scenes. LeBron never needs to get involved directly. The machine does it for him. His fans control the narrative, his image stays clean, and he avoids the mess entirely. It's strategic, efficient, and undeniably ruthless. But this is where the story shifts. Kyrie didn't collapse. He didn't fall apart. He didn't prove the critics right. Instead, he went to Dallas and became a champion again. He's playing the sharpest, most focused basketball of his entire career. He's become a respected veteran voice, a mentor for younger players, and someone who finally found real peace. Not the media-friendly version of peace, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are. And the biggest proof of that growth came when Luka Doncic was traded to the Lakers. Kyrie didn't panic or feel threatened. He stayed grounded, kept producing, and reminded the league that all those claims about him being impossible to build around were never true. He became one of the most dependable players on the roster, proving that the narrative was never about his talent. It was about people needing him to fail so they could protect someone else's story. And now we're back to that livestream moment. After everything he's been through, the hate, the distortions, the silence, Kyrie looked into the camera and made a promise. When his playing days are over, the real story is coming out. Trust him. If you followed this entire journey, drop your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe because this story is far from finished. And the way he said it wasn't casual and it definitely wasn't a throwaway line. It carried the weight of someone who has been holding things in for years and is finally ready to put everything on the table. This isn't shaping up to be some polished diplomatic interview where he sidesteps the tough questions. This is shaping up to be Kyrie laying out everything that happened behind the scenes. The conversations the public never heard. The moments that got buried by the narrative machine, the parts of the story that were never supposed to reach the surface. Then he dropped another line that went even deeper. Nobody could ever live in his shoes, and nobody could ever say what they would have done in his position. That wasn't frustration. That was someone who knows things the rest of us don't. Someone who lived through experiences that would completely reshape how people see the entire Cleveland era if they ever came to light. And the way he delivered it with that subtle edge and that I'm not scared anymore energy made it clear he finished protecting other people's legacies at the expense of his own truth. So now the real question I send to whether Kyrie will talk, it's what happens to LeBron's legacy when he finally does. Because the system surrounding LeBron has been airtight for years. Every narrative gets steered, every storyline gets crafted, every bit of criticism gets redirected onto someone else. It's been controlled, precise, and incredibly effective. But Kyrie's promise cracks that structure. And once he starts revealing the politics, the tension, the honest conversations that happened away from cameras, that polished image might not walk away unscathed. Kyrie didn't need a documentary or a PR rollout to shake the foundation. He did it with a single sentence on a live stream. And judging by how fast people panicked, how quickly defenders mobilized, how aggressively fans rushed to discredit him before he even explained anything, it's obvious everyone already understands how dangerous his truth could be. The countdown has already started. Kyrie's retirement is only a few years away, and when that day comes, when he finally sits down and tells the full story without worrying about contracts, team politics, or league pressure, the entire basketball world will be locked in. Because the truth hits different when it comes from the person who lived through every second of it. And Kyrie Irving lived through all of it. Every decision, every conflict, every part of the story that got twisted into something else. And soon he's going to make sure everyone knows what really happened. If this story opened your eyes to what has been building between two of the biggest names in basketball, hit that subscribe button so you ready when Kyrie finally speaks. Because what is coming next is going to be bigger than anyone expects.